4 of our coverage after 24 hours of extraordinary stories and circumstance. And there is more surprise ahead. This morning, compulsories of women's team gymnastics. You'll see Elena Shushanova, the Soviet Union's team leader and powerful acrobat. You'll see the Americans, Phoebe Mills, the key to the success of the U.S. team, and Kelly Garrison Steeves, at 21, the veteran of the American squad. And you'll see Greg Louganis begin his bid to become the only man in history to win both diving events in 2 Olympics. All ahead this morning. Hello, everybody. Welcome to day 4 of our coverage from Seoul, Korea. I'm Gail Gardner, along with Jane Pauley and Jimmy Cefalo. Jane, of course, the one face you're accustomed to seeing on a regular basis at this hour. Jimmy and I, NBC sportscasters. Jimmy, also the Today Show sports reporter, and the only one of the 3 of us I can guarantee you to ever catch a touchdown pass in a Super Bowl. We will be with you 3 hours each morning, Monday through Friday, for the next 2 weeks, beginning today with extensive coverage the compulsory phase of women's team gymnastics and men's diving. That is only part of what we have in store. Jane has more of what's ahead this morning.
And we are
the compulsory phase of women's team gymnastics and men's diving. That is only part of what we have in store. Jane has more of what's ahead this morning.
And we are an accurate representation of Seoul in that sportscasters do outnumber us fans at least 2 to 1.
At least 2 to 1.
Here in Seoul. Seoul is a picturesque city tucked into the mountains and cut in half by a winding river. But there is much more to Korea than its capital, and later in the show, we'll send you a postcard. In the meantime, Jimmy has some news.
Jane and Gail, while most of you slept last night, the competition continued here in Seoul, both on and off the field. Carl Lewis is in danger of being left off the 4x100-meter relay team. Lewis, seeking to duplicate his 4 gold medal effort of 1984, has been at odds with the coach of the American relay squad. Russ Rogers, the relay coach, today accused Lewis of disruptive behavior and said he'll remove the American star from the team if there is another incident. More controversy off the field. American boxer Anthony Hembrick was disqualified yesterday when he failed to show up on time for his opening round bout. We pick up the story just moments before the bout was scheduled to begin. Marv Albert was ringside.
We are now waiting for Anthony Hembrick to make his appearance. His opponent, Ha Jong-ho, is already in the ring, and there has been no sign of Anthony Hembrick.
Word from backstage says the team doctor says the United States team is not here yet.
We're told that the United States boxing team had its bus leave at 9 this morning from their headquarters, and they have yet to arrive. It is right now 10 minutes before 11 Seoul time.
11 about. That's what we thought. And that's why we're here. We said,
But you see, nevertheless, all the other delegations that had boxes on ring A or B, they understood this program correctly.
And now it is official. It is a walkover. And middleweight Anthony Hembrick of the United States loses because he did not show on time. The victory awarded to Ha Jong-ho of Korea.
U.S. boxing officials appeal that decision, but we've just received word that the protest was turned down, and so Anthony Hembrick, he's out of the Olympic Games before stepping into the ring. Yeah?
Okay, Jimmy. Up first this morning, the preliminaries of men's springboard diving. The preliminaries determine the 12 finalists. Now, this is an event that the United States has dominated over the years, winning 13 of 17 gold medals that have been handed out. No diver has ever won back-to-back golds off the 3-meter springboard. Greg Louganis is expected to do that here in Seoul. So let's go to Chamshil Indoor Swimming Pool for the 3-meter preliminaries.
We're at the diving venue, Chamshil Indoor Swimming Pool, the preliminaries of the men's 3-meter springboard. In the 9th round of the preliminaries, Greg Louganis had an accident. He hit his head coming past the board, but then he came right to the surface and came out of the pool. Now we'll go back and look at it in slow motion. What happened?
Greg did not get his weight far enough over the end of the board. Watch his hips in relation to his heels. Right there, his weight is too far back. Consequently, the dive goes straight up. It does not move away. Greg knows he's close because of the way he comes out with his hands tucked in close.
And he knows he's in trouble right there.
There, as you see, takes that glancing blow to his head.
But he did come immediately out of the pool and was assisted, then went with the doctors into a training room. And they worked on him, and a strong medical staff was there.
The best. He has Dr. Jim Puffer, who is the head of sports medicine for the United States Olympic Committee. He has Dr. Ben Rubin, who is the head of sports medicine for United States diving. And he has his former coach, Dr. Sammy Lee, and of course his present coach, Ron O'Brien.
Now, they did take stitches. They checked him over. The decision has been made. He will continue in the competition. He has 2 dives remaining, and both of his remaining dives are reverse dives, and he cannot change them.
No, he cannot.
Reverse, 1.5 somersault, 3.5 twist, 3.3 degree of difficulty. We worked just some possibilities. 5s or better, he will make it into the finals. 3s or less on his last 2 dives, he probably would not make it into the 12.
The one thing that Greg must concentrate on now is that takeoff. He's been the master of that takeoff, and look at that. He's taking the edge off the tension right now, but he must get his hips in line and get right on the end of that board. Watch this. Good. You all right now?
We are now in the 11th and final round. Greg Louganis has 1 more dive, and it is another reverse dive. And Steve, you're concerned about this.
Yes, I am, because I saw the same mistake that he made when he hit. I saw that mistake on the previous dive.
What is the mistake?
The mistake is he is not getting his hips through the board to get his balance properly aligned on the end. He was still back on the board on his previous dive. He must get to the end of the board so the dive moves away.
The dive that he hit the board, he had 1s and 0s and a half, a 1.5 and 1-1. The next dive as high as 2 9s and a half. Now here, he's in the middle of the pack. The hips are still back.
Yes, they are, and I know Coach O'Brien has got to be, on the one hand, very relieved. But on the other hand, he's got some work to do. Greg is definitely in the finals. But he is, watch this, see his hips, they're still back. Watch where his feet land, still back. But he's smart enough to jump away. He knew he wasn't in good shape. This, of course, is not one of Greg's best dives. He's very capable, but at this point, who cares?
That's right, who cares? There are the scores. That's right, he's in the finals.
And he's safe, just what he said. Let's listen.
That's where you got to be, but you were back on the board. So you need to get out there a little bit more. But that's fine. You kicked a little high and washed over. That's good for today. Good job. You're tough. I'll tell you, when the tough gets going, you got to be tougher. So tomorrow you're going to prove the point. Okay?
After Greg reviewed the competition, we contacted Dr. Jim Puffer, the head physician for the USOC. We asked him if he would come on with us. He declined. He stated that he would rather stay with Greg. He did state, though, that Greg grazed his head on the board, causing a minor laceration, requiring 4 temporary stitches. At this time, There's no concern about a concussion or a neck injury. They are going to examine him and have an official statement later. They are taking Greg back to the village. He does not have to go to a hospital. They're going to clean his wound and put in fresh stitches. Now, from a diver standpoint, what does this do?
Well, to a mortal diver, I think it would really destroy his confidence. But you have to remember, we're dealing with Greg Louganis here. This is a man who likes challenges to propel him beyond his limits. He had high limits here, 800 on the springboard. He could use this to his advantage, and I'm expecting to see a classic, maybe an historic performance from him tonight.
Now remember, this is the preliminaries. All these scores are thrown out. What we decided today, the top 12 divers for the finals, they'll be diving in reverse order of their finish. So here is the order of the divers. And you can see diving 6 is Bradshaw of the United States, and therein lies the story.
There certainly is. He struggled, and I've never seen him struggle like this before. And then he follows Greg in the diving order. He sees Greg hit the board, and then he came back to life. He dived magnificently, and there he is, diving 6th.
And this is the rest of the diving order. Greg Louganis will be diving 3rd from last. He will put the pressure on the rest of the divers. We'll have the finals live tonight here on NBC.
That, by the way, was actually the 3rd time that Louganis has hit the board in competition. And it was very reminiscent back in 1968 of Mickey King, Captain Mickey King, when she hit the springboard as well and fractured her wrist. She came back, though, in 1972, won the gold medal in the springboard.
Very fortunate. There was also a Soviet diver 5 years ago who hit his head on a diving platform and died about a week later. So Greg Louganis is very fortunate.
Okay, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we will go live to women's gymnastics. Stay with us.
NBC Sports presents the games of the 24th Olympiad, brought to you by Hyundai, proud sponsor of the 1988 Summer Olympic Games. By Kodacolor Gold Film. Show your true colors on Kodacolor Gold Film, the official film of the 1988 Olympic Games. And by IBM, the bigger picture, the people, products, and resources of IBM.
Earlier today, last night for those of you in the United States, women's gymnastics began the team competition. It continues right now with the Soviets and Americans taking the floor. So let's send you to the Olympic Gymnastics Hall live for the action that began just a couple of moments ago.
Gymnastics, day 2. Early session of the women's compulsories, and the Romanians and East Germans are 1-2. 19-year-old Dagmar Kersten from East Berlin scored the first perfect 10 of the day with her uneven bars routine. The attractive Kersten injured and did not compete in last fall's World Championships. Her return has made a solid East German team even stronger. Kersten currently 2nd in the all-around. The world champion Romanian saw their 18-year-old star, Daniela Silovac, take the individual all-around lead with 2 perfect 10s today, 1 on an impeccable bars routine. The 83-pound Silovac, 3rd in the 87 world competition, then impressed the judges again with an athletic and elegant floor exercise. Another 10. Her high-altitude style sent the Romanians into the early team lead. Now the final 2 compulsory sessions, and that means the gymnastic hall doors open for the favored Soviets. They're up first, followed later by the United States team. Good morning, and you're in for a treat as things are really heating up in the women's compulsory competition. The Romanians have taken the lead at the halfway mark. Now it's the Soviet Union's turn. Dick Enberg with Mary Lou Rett and Bart Connor, a couple of gold medalists from 1984, and Daniela Silovac with those 2 10s. She was the star of the first 2 sessions. Who's her match with the Soviet Union?
Dick, I think if anybody can match Danielle Silovac's score, I feel it's Elena Shishyanova. She has the capability of scoring a perfect 10 on floor like Silovac, and I think if she can stick her vault, I'm looking for a 10 on vault.
She's the veteran on the Soviet team. She's 19, and she has a football mentality. She'll sacrifice her body to get that 10. And on the team side, the Soviets, they were beaten in Rotterdam for the Worlds last October.
And many people feel the reason why the Soviets were beaten is because the Romanians looked so good in practice that all of the judges and everyone in the gymnastics community was so impressed by their performances. Well, the Soviets mean business here. We just saw them walk into the arena just a little while ago, and they are so serious. And of course, if they compete anywhere near how they practice, it's going to be an incredible show.
As Mary Lou Retton predicted, will score the fourth 10 of the competition, the third by the women.
Probably the only gymnast that is as explosive as Mary Lou Retton, of course, is Yelena Shushinova. She really has dynamic power, and you can see she puts it all together in this fall with incredible pre-flight. And watch how she tucks in and kicks out and completely nails the landing. I don't know how it could be done any better than that, Dick.
They're the Romanians you saw in the blue uniforms watching, and Daniela, so there she is, Silovash. Well, she probably knows that's a 10.
She's probably staring down the judges, hoping they won't give that a 10, but there was no way it wasn't going to get a 10. Look at the pre-flight into the tuck and extend completely out of the tuck. That's what the judges are looking for, as Mary Lou pointed out earlier, that tuck and that complete extension to the layout.
And she snapped into the extension, and she snapped it when she stuck it on the floor. And there's the 10, the third by women in this day of compulsories, and Silovash may be hiding a smile. She knew it was as good as she was earlier today. We'll return women's gymnastics. Welcome back to Ken Hunter and Mary Lou Retton. The women's pulse are third of 4 sessions. And in the fourth session, the United States team, as young as the Soviets, each of the team, 3 of the 6 members are just 15 years old. And of course, the U.S. #1, Phoebe Mills, a 15-year-old. The old woman of the group, 19-year-old Yelena Shushinova. So far, she has a 9.9 and a 10, and this is her performance on the uneven bars.
Let's watch for this handstand at the top. Handstand, pirouette, handstand. That's right. Very nice work on the giant and the straddle back to the handstand. She's so aggressive. I love her style because she hits every position very fast and very clean throughout the whole exercise.
And you almost have to pick at that performance to find something that's wrong. And the judges did find a minor break, 9.925 for Shushinova, as the Soviets have completed the third rotation. Some of the other rotations still involved. So Shushinova with a 9.925, that equals Boginskaya's 9.925, equaling the 2 best scores for the Soviets. We mentioned the United States team will be in the fourth session. You'll see them performing this morning. And one of their stars, boy, she came out of nowhere. 15-year-old, you're going to love her. What a dynamo. Shelley Stack. Let's spend a moment in time.
A bright new star from the Karolyi gym. She's a picture of grace, poise, and confidence in the gym. But away from it, you're reminded it was just 2 months ago Shelley celebrated her 15th birthday.
Oh, that's lovely.
In fact, the year before Shelley was born, Olga Korbut had already won a gold medal.
I really never heard of Nadia or Olga before I came to Houston.
Shelley came to Houston from Pennsylvania to train with Bella when she was just 9 years old. But her training with Bella was cut short when Shelley left Karolyi's for a coach whose regimen was a little less taxing.
You usually think of gymnasts burning out when they're like 15 or 16 after being in gymnastics for about 6 years, and I was only in it for like 4. But I just rushed on me at that time, and so much work that I just couldn't take it.
Karolyi is used to his young gymnasts coming and going and coming back again. When Shelley returned in December of '86, it was with a stronger, more focused attitude, and suddenly she found herself included as an Olympic hopeful.
Shelley's personality is really apart. It's one of a kind. She's a low fireball, always up, always hyper, always ready to do something, good or bad.
Normal, smooth.
Bella, he's really sort of, he's a good coach. Not a good coach, he's a great coach. But he's a little hard to work with because sometimes you don't understand what he's saying. And you don't really want to ask him what he said because then, you never know if he's going to get mad at you or not.
Shelley's time off is spent like any other 15-year-old at the teenage institution known as the mall. Shopping, eating, hanging out with friends. Shelley loves pizza and seems to be able to eat whatever she wants without putting on a pound. And at 74 pounds, 4 foot 8 inches, Shelley's feet don't even touch the floor. But her arms are reaching for the gold.
Never forget in Houston at the national championship, she met Mary Lou Retton, and I heard her tell one of her teammates, she said, Mary Lou is so small. Stacked 4'8" and 74 pounds. The competition continues. The women's compulsories, the final round Soviets will be on the beam. Don't wander away. Welcome back to Gymnastics Hall. We're between rotations, 4th rotation coming up for the Soviets. Gee, I kind of like it with Mary Lou Retton. I can kind of feel big. I'm always the shortest. John Powers joins us. We're blessed here at NBC Sports, a fine writer of the Boston Globe, behind the scenes. And you've been talking with the Romanian people and with Bella Karolyi, who still has connections. What's the story on Aurelia Dobre? Many felt that she might be the all-around champion here. How about the injury?
Well, the thing is, it's something out of a mystery, really, the mystery of Aurelia's knee. We heard in the spring that she'd had a major knee injury. It was said to be a broken kneecap, maybe some ligament damage. The Romanian said, no, it's been a bad knee for a couple of years. We saw it here today. She unwrapped the knee before she went up on bars, and it looks like the zipper on Frankenstein's neck. It looks very fresh. We went down and asked Romanians about it later. I asked the head coach in 3 different languages. I know he knows all 3. I said, what's wrong? No, I don't understand. We asked the assistant coach. She said, ask about competition. We are not doctors.
Well, but Dobre, to her credit, performing well, even though obviously she's not fully recovered from that knee injury, but it might hurt her chances and the team's chances all around. So for the Romanians, the problem has been physical. For the U.S. team, it's been more mental and emotional. What's the latest on them?
That's right. Well, it's funny. The big news today was that for the first time in weeks, the U.S. coaches agreed on something. They agreed on the order that the U.S. women will be up on each event. And not surprising, it's going to be Phoebe Mills up last on 3, but Brandy Johnson up last on 1 and second last on 2. She's never really competed internationally at a major level before, so it'll be interesting to see how that comes out. But at least there is peace, love, and Woodstock in the U.S. team tonight.
And that is news if you've been following the women's gymnastics picture in the United States. John, let's quickly take a look at the standings here. After 3 rotations, the Soviet Union is in first place ahead of Romania. East Germany close in 3rd, Czechoslovakia in this rotation, Bulgaria, Korea having a big session here. They're currently involved. And on the individual side, it is still Silovash just ahead of Shushanova. Let's go to Jane Pauley.
Thank you, Dick. We'll return to gymnastics in a little while. Right now, let's get caught up with the rest of the news, and for that, let's send you back to New York. And a good morning to John Palmer.
And from New York, a good morning to you, Jane Pauley, and everyone else. In the news this morning in Haiti, Lieutenant General Prosper Avril, who took over the country in a weekend military coup, will set up a new government today. Avril was swept into power after middle-level officers rebelled against President Henri Namfi, who himself took power in a military coup just 3 months ago. Namfi was flown into exile in neighboring Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic, where he has taken up residence in a local hotel with his wife and daughter. A hotel spokesman quoted Namfi as saying that he will have no public statements today, tomorrow, or ever. There has been the usual jubilation in the streets of Haiti following the coup, with the people hoping the change in leadership will improve their economic situation. But it's not all joy. At least 7 people have died, with mobs reported going into several homes searching for Namfi supporters. The new man in charge of the armed forces in Haiti is reportedly Jean-Claude Paul, and he is wanted in this country for drug trafficking charges. Well, more trouble in Burma this morning following a military coup there. Troops under orders to halt all public gatherings have opened fire on crowds of defiant students, Buddhist monks, and other unarmed protesters in downtown Rangoon. Casualties there said to be heavy. In this country, all that is left of Hurricane Gilbert this morning is some rain squalls moving into the Ohio Valley. But for residents of Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, Mexico, and parts of Texas, the cleanup has just begun. The worst single tragedy of the storm occurred in Monterrey, Mexico, where up to 200 people were swept away when a river poured over its banks and overturned 4 buses. NBC News correspondent Robert Hager reports.
Mexico now counts many more than 100 confirmed dead from the hurricane and perhaps another 100 missing. This is what the Santa Catarina River looked like flowing through Monterrey the morning after the storm. Normally, it's a dry creek bed. And when waters receded, this is the ugly sight revealed. 4 buses, which had been jammed with people, now upside down in the mud. Local people said that during the storm, the buses had been routed this way by police because another route was already impassable. But soon, this road was impassable too. The buses were cut off by washed-out roadway and inundated. Police aboard heavy roadworking equipment had tried to reach the victims, but they too were swamped and 6 drowned. Relatives came to look for missing loved ones. As the search for more dead continued, authorities blamed the fact that Monterrey is 180 miles inland. No one was prepared for such a fierce storm that far from the coastline. Robert Hager, NBC News, Monterrey, Mexico.
An arson fire in Northern California is causing major problems this morning. At least 5 homes have been destroyed. The blaze has sent a huge cloud of smoke over the San Francisco area, 50 miles away. Police say they have discovered the device believed to have been used to start that fire. And in Yellowstone National Park, rain and light snow have soaked the area, helping firefighters there in their battle against the big fires. In Los Angeles, 2 people died and 5 others were wounded in a series of gang-related shootings over the weekend. At the same time, police carried out a sweep that brought more than 700 arrests in the latest crackdown on gangs in the Los Angeles area. In Miami, 4 people were injured and at least a dozen detained when gang violence erupted at a Central American Independence Day festival on Sunday. More than 100 police officers in riot gear were called to Tropical Park in Miami to break up fights at the festival attended by about 30,000 people. Well, Forbes magazine is out this morning with another of its famous lists. This one listing the 40 highest paid entertainers in the world. The magazine's estimate of their total earnings for 1987 and 88. Michael Jackson is at the top of the list at $97 million. Bill Cosby is second with $92 million. Number 40 at the bottom of the list is Frank Sinatra, whose 1987-88 income is put at $16 million. And at 7:34 in New York, I guess that brings us to Willard Scott, who's down in Washington with a look at the weather. Good morning, Willard.
Hello, John. I made the list. You'll find me in the back pages. Check it out there. That's the one between the blue pages and the yellow pages. And good morning. Going for the gold this morning in Miamisburg, Ohio, is Mary Hettinger. She is 100 years old today. Happy birthday to you. 28 degrees this morning at Butte, Montana. It is cold in the Rockies. We do have, look out, severe weather possible, and a tornado watch is in effect until 11 o'clock Central Time, southern Missouri and northern Arkansas. Winter-like weather in the Cascades. They're calling for snow, wind, and cold. They love it. They need all the rain they can get. Also scattered showers from the Great Lakes, the middle Mississippi Valley, all the way down through central Texas, and scattered thunder showers in the southeast. Here's what's happening in your world even as we speak.
Good morning, Central Iowa. Here's your forecast for today. Rain and thunderstorms, windy with south winds becoming northwest at 15 to 30 miles per hour at the high 73.
That's it. That's all right now for weather and for birthdays. Now back to the Olympics in Seoul, Korea.
Welcome back to Gymnastics Hall. We're in the midst of the final rotation. The Soviets are on the beam, and this is a little gal that really caught my eye, Natalia Lashenova, barely 15 years of age. She's from a Soviet team that just seems to produce one great athlete after another.
She's so explosive, Dick. I think that's one of her biggest strengths, of course. She's having a little trouble today containing that explosiveness. She's bounced around on floor, and she had a little bobble earlier in this routine, but a beautiful dismount. That's called an Arabian, and she stuck it cold.
Shevchenko started in the beam with a 9.750, then Baitova with a 9.80. We'll see about Lashenova, but first, athleticism and artistic flair. Top scores on the precarious beam. Here's Mary Lou Retton with an insight.
The compulsory balance beam routine is made up of both tumbling skills and dance elements. The two major ones in this routine are the back walkover back handspring and the front attitude turn. Now it's important for the gymnast to start with their leg high up in the air. Show the split in the back walkover, and then show some flight in the back handspring ending in an arabesque. Now this turn might look easy, but believe me, to finish in that position, it's not.
All right, Mary Lou, try that at home on your kitchen floor and see if you can hold it, much less on a 4-inch beam. Lashenova with a 9.75. That's the lowest score for her in 4 rotations. Here's a handsome young lady, Svetlana Boginskaya.
She really has a pretty style. Those long limbs really look so dynamic on the beam.
She is relatively tall, 5'2".
She's a giant among these young gymnasts out here. And there's the skill Mary Lou was talking about, the back handspring through to the arabesque. Perfect. Judges are looking split there in the handstand. She's very quick and precise and sharp.
Like Dobre, the Romanian's great toe point.
Beautiful split, pirouette, step down, raises her head to emphasize the position and the control. All right, here comes a dismount. Cartwheel step in Arabian, and she sticks it. Boy, that was really, really pretty. Elegant and yet dynamic at the same time.
Just 15 years of age, Boginskaya.
Here's one of the skills Mary Lou pointed out. There's a back walkover to the back handspring, and notice she finishes in a high arabesque there with her leg really lifting high before she places it back on the beam.
Now you see what little beam they have to work with. That's only 4 inches wide.
Look at the flexibility and the leg extension before she steps up to do the cartwheel step in. Half turn front, extends out with perfect toe point in the air. That is very difficult to point your toes while you're flipping and twisting throughout the air.
There are the scores, 6 in all. Throw out the high from the Soviet judge, second in the 10 and the low, and you get a 9.90. And here's Elena Shushinova. She's going 5th for the first time. She's been 6th up on the other 3 rotations.
This has to be a tough performance for Shushinova because she had some problems in the last World Championships. On the beam compulsory here, scoring 9.725, which in standards is a terrific score. But for Shushinova, of course, she's always looking for the 9 9s and the 10. Here comes the back walkover, back handspring to the arabesque.
good contrast to Boginskaya, who is more elegant with her long lines. This is a powerfully built gymnast who can't quite look the same, but no less the athlete.
When she first emerged on the scene, she was just a powerhouse and not an elegant dancer at all. She has improved tremendously, but you're right, Boginskaya has that dynamic style that is so terrific. Even Trushinova didn't have the flexibility, and yet she's improved that a great deal. She had almost complete 180-degree split in that handstand pirouette. But what she's good at is the tumbling elements. Look at the height on that Arabian and a perfect landing.
Strong and solid, the compact 90-pound Elena Shushinova from Leningrad.
You can see the turn, as Mary Lou pointed out. This is an attitude. She must finish with the leg bent, and actually she moved through that very quickly. She didn't chance it by holding the position too long. And once again, she was a little crooked on this back walkover, but notice the arabesque position there before she puts her left foot back on the beam. The judges are looking for those precise techniques. Here's the cartwheel step-in Arabian. That's how you do it.
She gets a 9.90, and quick calculation, I believe that moves her into a tie. So Daniela Silovaj and Elena Shushinova are in a virtual tie. There may be some fractional points that separate them. We'll give you that as we now look at the number 6 gymnast for the Soviets, Strasheva. Olga Strasheva.
Strasheva really reminds me of Ludmila Tereshcheva. She has that pulled back hair and that elegant style that the Soviets have been so well known for. Here's the full turn. Nice. What an honor for her to be last up among the Soviets who were so terrific on the beam. And here's the arabesque. Very nice. Handstand with complete split, turn, raise the head for emphasis, and step down. This, so far, is a perfect exercise. All she has left is the Arabian here. Oh, and one hopper. We might have seen a 10, Dick.
She's just 15 years of age, one of 3, as we mentioned, on this team. Strasheva from the Ukraine.
There's the full turn. She steps out of it very quickly, but the Soviets are not taking too many chances. They don't want to risk a major break here because they are in a very close team competition with the Romanians.
Yeah, what's exciting, Bart, this is just the compulsory where they're all restricted. Wait 2 days from now when we get these great athletes in the optionals when it's let it all fly. So the Soviets have completed their beam. 9.90 is the score for Strasheva. And again, the Soviet judge and the judge from Holland giving her a 10.
How could they possibly give a 10 when they saw a hop on the landing? Well, I guess there is a little nationalistic pride here, Vic.
So the Soviets have completed their compulsory round. We'll check the scores, both individual and team, for you, and we'll have that information when we return. And don't go too far away because the United States in the 4th session, remember the last session for the men meant the scores were up a 1/10, 2/10 of a point higher. That could bode well for the U.S.
McDonald's.
Three of the 4 sessions complete. The United States will be in the 4th session. That'll start about 1/2 hour from now. Let's look at the standings after the 2 powers, the Soviet Union and Romanians, have gone through their sessions. The Soviet Union with 9/10 of a point lead, that can be overcome. A couple of major faults in the optionals, and the Romanians could challenge, but it does appear Soviet Union, they've never lost an Olympic team gold medal since 1952 in an Olympics in which they've competed. Of course, 84 was the exception to the boycott. And Svetlana Boginskaya moves into third place behind Silovash and Shushanova in the individual all-around going into the optionals, with Kirsten, the East German, Strausheva of the Soviet Union, and Timler of the East German team rounding out the top 6. And all 6 of those stars are capable of 10s when we get to the optional, Mary Lou.
Absolutely. All are very capable of scoring 10s, and I think it's going to be an exciting competition, especially after the team competition is over and we have the all-around and the girls are fighting it out.
Silovash maintains her lead. I frankly am a little surprised. I thought Shushanova, having the advantage of going second behind Silovash, might overtake her.
Well, I really felt that the Soviet team being so strong would help Shushanova in terms of building her scores. Silivash's scores have held up very well, considering she doesn't have quite as strong of a team. I think we'll see more of that in the optional exercises, because the Soviets are going to just knock your socks off in the optionals. The Romanians, I think, are going to have a little trouble, and much of that is, of course, because of their star, there's Aurelia Dobre, who,
right.
you know, she really has had a hard time, and she hasn't been fully prepared. And the sad thing about that is that she's not fully back in terms of her strength and her physical strength to do well in the optional exercises.
Let's introduce the United States team. Bart Connor. Bella Caroli has these 3 girls. They're all 15. Phoebe Mills, #1 nationals. Brandy Johnson, watch out for her. She's got the potential to get a medal. Shelley Stack, you've already met. And then there are 3 others who have their own coaches here.
And it's really taken a couple of years for this team to gel. Hope Spivey, Brandy Johnson, and Shelley Stack have looked so good, but Kelly Garrison-Steves finally is getting back from that injury, a stress fracture to the ankle. And Missy Marlowe has had a real rough time getting prepared for this competition. She had the best meet of her life in the trials. I hope she can hold it together, because those 6 girls have to do well in this final session.
From Garrison-Steves, 21, and Mary down to 3 15-year-olds. That's the U.S. contingent, and many feel they still have a chance to get a bronze medal.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the International Broadcast Center. I'm Gail Gardner, along with Jane Pauley and Jimmy Cefalo. We are coming to you live from Seoul, Korea, on a morning when we have already seen Greg Louganis hit his head on the 3-meter springboard. He was able to complete the preliminary competition. He is okay and has made it to the finals, which you will see tonight in prime time. We will also have the Americans coming up for you, the American women in team gymnastics. But Jane, you are our official, I guess, tour guide. Korea, I understand.
It is possible to see athletic competition here morning, noon, and night, but every now and then one comes up for air and looks around. Seoul, Korea, the world's 5th largest city, a westernized metropolis teeming with superhighways and high-rises and inevitable traffic jams, a city bursting at the seams. But outside the capital city, Korea lives up to its nickname, the land of the morning calm. We send you this postcard from Korea. Outside of Seoul's city limits, one sees a different side of Korea. Andong is in the southeastern part of the country. Here they live and work as they did for centuries. Years ago, 70% of Koreans lived in the countryside. Then came the Industrial Revolution and the mass migration to towns and cities. Today, only 20% make their living from the land. At night, on the Sea of Japan, fishermen come home with their catch. Korea is a peninsula with over 1,500 miles of coastline in South Korea. During the Yi Dynasty, 1392 to 1910, this country was called Chosun, which means land of the morning calm. Everywhere you look in Korea, you see peaks. Korea is a country of mountains. Only 20% of the landscape is flatlands. In the northeasternmost corner is Sorak Mountain. And then there is Jeju-do, Korea's island gem. They call Jeju-do Asia's Hawaii. It lies 60 miles off Korea's south coast. In the center is Mount Hala, an extinct volcano and the highest point in the country. It's a favorite spot for one of Korea's favorite pastimes, hiking. And with its romantic settings, Jeju-do is also the place for honeymooners. Jeju is an obsolete word which translates the place way over there. Its remoteness has preserved not only its natural beauty, but also the lifestyles of the native people. So Korea is a tourist attraction. Unfortunately, the tourists have not arrived in the numbers that the South Koreans had hoped, and that's a sore point in national pride, because a year ago tourism was higher than it is today, even with the Olympics. You can go to most of the venues, correct me if I'm wrong, and there are seats available, tickets available.
There has only been one event to sell out here outside of the opening ceremony, and that event was badminton, which is a demonstration sport here. Now, badminton is a very popular sport here in Korea. They love badminton, and it really has sold out to quite well. All the other events, however, there are many seats available, so if you're happening to drop by Asia, stop by in Seoul, there are a lot of seats available.
You know what, I want, Jane has had the opportunity to visit some of the venues and to see some of the competition, and I want your impressions, but I know you were particularly impressed with the women's platform diving.
My singular first impression coming to it as a layman was courage. The courage not just to climb up 3 stories tall, but the courage to perform under the pressure of looking a yard at 12 feet away at a camera lens bigger than my face, and still be able to perform as if there was no one there. More we can say later about Greg Louganis and how the courage not just to forget the potential danger that exists, but to hit hard against the reality of it, literally turn around and dive off the board again. That courage is my singular strongest impression of the games that I've seen so far.
Of all the athletes, and this is just going to add to the legend of Greg Louganis. Thank goodness he is healthy and well and will be diving in the finals tomorrow. But as we go along looking back at the stories of these Olympic Games, that will be one of them.
You know, you wonder what puts somebody a cut above everybody else. I mean, when people say that Greg Louganis is the best diver who ever lived, part of that has to do with, you know, the mental toughness that comes along with doing that. And to have something like that happen, to not be seriously injured, but also to not have it affect you in any way where your performance falls apart, which did happen to one of the young Chinese weightlifters that we saw yesterday. To have that not affect you is what makes Greg Louganis as great as he is. Okay, we're going to take a break and be back to talk about some more things right after these messages, so stay with us.
Lots more gymnastics coming up yet this morning. We'll give you a little bit of wrestling as well. But now let's get caught up on the news, and for that, we'll go back to New York now and John Palmer.
Thank Thank you, Jane. Good morning again. In the news, there is new violence this morning in Burma in response to Sunday's military takeover there. New demonstrations and new clashes broke out today in the capital city, Rangoon. NBC reporter Lynn Newman in Rangoon says the military now controls the city.
The Army has moved with great force into Rangoon. I understand the Rangoon General Hospital is choked with wounded. There are convoys of soldiers moving through the city. The rumors are running wild all over the place. Some diplomats are saying we're going to have a very, very high death toll from this for certain. Many people have died.
Reporter Lynn Newman, the civilian president who was overthrown in Burma, had been in office for only a month. In this hemisphere, for the second time in 3 months, the government of Haiti is under a new ruler this morning. The government there taken over by an aide to former dictator Jean-Claude Duvalier. Army Brigadier General Prosper Avril announced that he had assumed the presidency in a military coup to save Haiti from what he called anarchy and chaos. In taking over, he ousted Lieutenant General Henri Namfi, who had himself taken power in an earlier coup 3 months ago. Namfi has fled the country. He's believed to be holed up in a hotel this morning in the Dominican Republic. Officials in this country are closely monitoring the situation in Haiti. The State Department is cautioning Americans to avoid non-essential travel there. In Poland, there was more fallout this morning from that country's recent labor unrest. The nation's prime minister, who had been harshly criticized for doing too little too late to deal with Poland's economic problems, today submitted his resignation and said his entire cabinet would also step down. The resignations came just 1 day after Lech Wałęsa indicated that the Warsaw government might be close to legalizing the now outlawed Solidarity Union. In Northern Ireland, or rather Northern California, firefighters are battling several new blazes this morning. Officials say at least one of them is the work of an arsonist. Margaret Pelley of KCRA TV in Sacramento has a report.
This is what residents in the hills northeast of San Francisco are facing. California fire officials say an arsonist set this blaze, which has now consumed more than 8,700 acres and injured 2 women who were trapped in the flames.
I've been in hell, I tell you. I never seen anything like it.
Towers of smoke stretch out for 100 miles, dumping ash all over the San Francisco Bay. Some 60 residents evacuated as the flames raced through the ranch land, but a few stayed to fight.
When you live out here, you take responsibility for your own place.
A second 500-acre blaze erupted just hours later. The cause is still under investigation.
I'm alive. I'm alive.
And further north, evacuees are running from a third wildfire, a fast-moving inferno that has already claimed 10 homes.
I started to pack some suitcases and stuff, and before I knew it, it was in my yard.
Authorities say only still winds can help now. Margaret Pelley for NBC News.
The search continues this morning in northern Mexico for more than 100 people missing after they were caught in the destructive path of Hurricane Gilbert. Up to 200 people are believed to have died when 4 buses were swept away by the rain-swollen Santa Catarina River. At least 90 people were confirmed dead and many others are still missing. The storm also left 200,000 people homeless in northern Mexico. This morning, what's left of Hurricane Gilbert is bringing rain and thunderstorms through Arkansas and Missouri and up into the Ohio Valley. In presidential politics, George Bush and Michael Dukakis will be spending the week getting ready for next Sunday's televised debates. And with the polls indicating a tight race, both campaigns view the first of the 2 debates as crucial for their candidates. Both candidates also will be on the road today, Bush in Pennsylvania and Dukakis in Arkansas and in Texas. And at 5 minutes past the hour of 8 here in New York, we find Willard Scott also on the road down in Washington. I guess, though, that's home for you, Willard.
Oh, thank you. They miss you down here. They love your father-in-law. I check the family every day. They still love you.
Thank you.
Good old D.C. That's us, America's #1 city. And I'm wearing a little flower. The American Floral Society Marketing Group sent me this flower. This is National Flower Week, so wear your flowers, enjoy your flowers, how sweet they are. And Emil Fleischer, Mr. Emil Fleischer of Colby, Wisconsin, is 100. And in the same state, in Waukesha, Wisconsin, Teresa Fisher's 103. Check the Weather Act this morning and see what we have. Tornado watches in effect until 11 o'clock today. Be on the lookout. Southern Missouri, northern Arkansas. Snow in the Cascades. That's beautiful. and rain showers in the central part of the country. Look out for also a tornado watch, as we say, in southern Missouri and northern Arkansas. That's the big weather maker today. Here's what's happening in your world even as we speak.
Good morning, Central Iowa. Here's your forecast for today. Rain and thunderstorms, windy with south winds becoming northwest at 15 to 30 miles per hour at the high 73.
Now, way back yonder, way over there in Seoul, Korea, and to the Olympics. Hello, Seoul.
Welcome back to Seoul. Greco-Roman wrestling, not a very popular sport in the United States. However, it is dominated by the Eastern Bloc nations. We do have an American on the mat. He was there earlier today for a report. We go to Jeff Platnick.
The emotions of fans and wrestlers continue to rise here at Sangwoo Gymnasium as we get closer and closer to the medal rounds. And no hopes are higher than those of Dennis Kozlowski of the United States, the USA's best chance for a gold medal. And, Jeff, he easily discarded Fugumi of Japan earlier today.
There was really no contest. Dennis totally overwhelmed the Japanese wrestler using body lifts such as these, arcing his opponent high through the air, scoring big points en route to a 16-0 victory.
And wife Sylvie was very happy as well. What's it going to take for him to win the gold medal?
Well, he's expected to do well tonight against the Finn, Ahokas, but waiting in the wings is the Romanian, Yugoslav, and Soviet wrestlers, all world-place finishers.
Dennis did indeed make short order of the Finn in second round action. As a result of the 15-0 technical fall, the next step on the road to gold is Canadian Steve Marshall. Dennis Kozlowski and his brother Dwayne have their own t-shirt here. Sylvie Kozlowski wears her hopes and dreams. And her husband Dennis is in his third round match at 100 kilograms.
Yeah, no problem. Breathe. Very good. Get aggressive, keep the pressure. You're looking sharp. Very good. Breathe.
Dennis leads this match right now 2-0. One period left, 3 minutes. He's already run 2 big matches. He hasn't been scored on.
So Coach Kotzen asked Dennis to pick up the pace. He wants Dennis to really burn here and try to take the will away from the Canadian wrestler, Steve Marshall. He needs a body lift. He's already done 1 gut wrench. That's how he's obtained his 2 points. And now he needs the body lift or get some other type of exposure in order to go back to the gut wrench. And there you see his twin brother Dwayne helping lead the U.S. contingent in support of Dennis. And as predicted, Dennis will put Steve Marshall down to start the second period. And let's see if he can do the body lift.
He's been very tough with this throughout his first 2 matches, totally dominating both of his first 2 draws.
Well, Dennis here will hoist Marshall up high, and here it comes. It wasn't really high, but I think he'll get at least a point out of that.
Non-wrestling people really can't appreciate the degree of power that was necessary to do that.
And there's a gut wrench. I don't believe that will score. He needed a back exposure in order to go back to the gut wrench, and he didn't get it with that attempted lift when he only received 1 point.
Kozlowski, a chiropractor. Sounds pretty appropriate for him.
Well, certainly he can take care of his own body, but I heard he's handing out Golden Valley business cards out here, probably to his opponents.
He can do some realignment later on.
He's always getting the inside position on Marshall. Marshall's just happy to keep this match close. I haven't seen Steve try any type of offense. Dennis needs to be careful. He doesn't have much of a lead. A mistake could cost him. Marshall attempts a throw there. It's a slip. They'll be brought back to the center. Dennis will start again. And you hear the coach.
Come on. Go inside.
They want him to get double underhooks. That's getting over both arms and locking your hands. Dennis is real tough in there. The Canadian giving lots of ground, actually backing right off the mat. He might be cautioned out here fairly quick.
Well, he has 2. He can only afford 1 more there. They give him a little pre-warning. Marshall was 3rd in the Pan Am Games. He lost to Kozlowski in that competition at 10-1, so he's kept the match a little bit closer here. It's only 3-0 favor of Kozlowski.
Well, he might have tried to wrestle Dennis in that first match a little more open and realized he didn't have much of a chance. And here he's just trying not to make any mistakes and be real conservative. And yes, it produces a low score, but he himself is not getting any type of initiation going, no offense whatsoever, and he is not putting any points on the board. Dennis is extremely relentless with his underhook and pummel. He drives into you. You find yourself constantly backing up, constantly giving up inside position. And again, the referee looking at Marshall. They might caution him out here very quickly.
And Dennis, a very physical wrestler, extremely physical. We can ask his opponents that.
And there it is. They are going to give Marshall his third caution. That'll end the match by disqualification.
Well, a fairly close match, although Kozlowski totally controlled the action. The Canadian did keep it relatively close, only 3-0, but the final score, 3-0, but ends up in disqualification and a third-round win for Dennis Kozlowski of the United States. Though no medals have been handed out yet and no team scores are kept in Olympic wrestling, we can get a feel for who the wrestling powers are by comparing individual win-loss totals for the top countries. The Bulgarians have thus far surprised the Soviets, and host Korea is very hot, while the USA is turning in a respectable performance.
This NBC sports presentation of the games of the 24th Olympiad is brought to you by Dial. Aren't you glad you use Dial? By Anderson Windows. Come home to quality. Come home to Anderson. And by McDonald's, proud partners in the Olympic dream.
I mentioned badminton is a very popular sport here in Korea, and so is baseball. And so, as you can imagine, quite a bit of interest generated today when the Korean team met Team USA.
Today at Chomsho Baseball Stadium, the U.S. versus Korea. In the third inning, the Americans up 1-0. Ted Wood smacked the first of two doubles to send 2 runs home. A draftee of San Francisco, Wood was a giant today, knocking in 3 runs. The Americans also held their own in the field. In the bottom of the 5th, Korea had what looked to be a sure run with this hit to left center, but Tom Goodwin got hold of it, gunned it to shortstop David Silvestri, who nabbed Kim Dong-soo with the throw to Scott's service. Big Ben McDonald got the job done on the mound. The 6'7" right-hander gave up only 2 walks and struck out 8 for the win. So the U.S. team makes a successful Olympics debut, beating the hometown favorites 5-3.
It was a disappointed crowd there at Chomsho Baseball Stadium. The Koreans, a very popular sport here with baseball. They love that sport. It is unfortunate that the tournament will not be as strong as it could be because the Cuban amateur baseball team is not here because of the boycott. They, of course, the strongest amateur baseball team in the world.
Right, this is true. The other thing to look for when you watch these baseball games is that future major leaguers are going to be coming out of these games as they did in '84 with Corey Snyder and Will Clark. So a lot of the young athletes you're seeing in the Olympic baseball will actually be major leaguers someday, and most of them have been drafted. All right, we're going to take a break, be back with more Greco-Roman wrestling right after these messages. Stay with us.
Nighttime in Seoul. That is a live shot, by the way. The time difference here, well, currently it is about, let's see, 10:20 on a Monday evening in Seoul. A 14-hour time difference to the East Coast of the United States, about 8:20 back there in New York. We're going to head back to wrestling. Russ Hellickson, Jeff Blatnick.
Got to maintain underhook position because they can caution you out if you just shock him. Maintain underhook position. If he's extending his arm, undrag immediately. You could do a few times this thing. Come on now. You're looking good. Action, yeah. No push.
Ike Anderson of the United States getting words of encouragement from Pavel Katzin, his coach. He is behind in this match as we prepare for the second period, 2-0. This is an all-important match for him. He has his ultimatum right now. If he wants to stay in the hunt for the medal, he must beat Commander Majidov of the Soviet Union. Majidov, a successful wrestler in this style. USA fans cheering on their favorite here. Majidov has won the World Championship, placed second. He's also been a 2-time European champion.
Anderson doesn't have quite those credentials. However, he has improved immensely throughout this last year. He has a very good body lift. He's been unable to draw a caution against Majidov, and I believe if he can get on top, he has the possibility of turning the Soviet wrestler and tying this score up. Majidov got his point with a quick one-point takedown and a one-point gut wrench, and Anderson has fended off 2 body lift attempts when he has been cautioned twice. One more, and he will be cautioned out of the match, disqualified.
Well, this really puts a lot of pressure on you, Jeff. When you're down going into the second period and you got 2 cautions, the referees are already looking to throw you out.
Well, it's up to you to set the pace now because you are trailing. He has to take the match to Majidov now. And Anderson donning a knee brace for the first time in this tournament, but it doesn't seem to be hampering his performance too much. And Majidov is now cautioned. Anderson will have a chance to lift. You see him walking. He's gathering up his energy right now. He's seeing in his mind what he has to do to lift Majidov and score some points.
Majidov hails out of the Republic of Georgia. He's 27 years old. Ike Anderson is 30. He has the age, but not the experience. Attempt for a lift here, Jeff.
Majidov is crawling to the edge of the mat there. Anderson trying to hang on. He tries a big body lift. He might get one.
Well, they're saying he was on the legs, Jeff.
Well, the grips did slip down across the thighs of the Soviet wrestler. And
Come on, Ike, come on.
Get on your hook now. Get that on your hook.
Come on, Ike. You can do it. One more caution. Burn him up.
Motivating Pavel. Getting Ike fired up. He has to score some points here if he has any chance at all in this match. 1 minute and 49 seconds to go. Greco-Roman wrestling, all upper body. Ike not able to score on that last movement because he got too low on the legs.
Katzin is asking Ike to really push, really sprint, pummel well, unbalance the Soviet wrestler Majidov, and draw another caution, and that way he would have another crack on top, possibly to turn the Soviet. In this position here, Ike should change some levels and drop real low, perhaps seizing the Soviet's waist. They break the grip. This is known as the pummel. Both wrestlers striving for inside control, looking for a lock in which they can use to possibly throw their opponent. And with time winding down, Anderson's going to have to really start opening up, take some risks in position, open himself up so that he can try and score some points, but at the same time, he opens the door for the Soviet to score some points.
And the referee there telling him to do something with that body lock. He's in position, and they gave him his second caution.
Whenever a wrestler locks hands, it's up to him to use that lock, or otherwise they deem that as passivity, just holding on and not allowing any wrestling to continue. They want action.
The USA coaches told us that this team is conditioned. If it's going to make a difference, they can do it in the end. With conditioning, they're going to be intense. We're going to find out right now.
Well, with under a minute to go, it's all on the line right now. Anderson needs a victory here to get into a medal round.
Oh, my, look.
It slipped down. Slipped down. Well, Majidov was pushing the arms down. Normally they'll allow that to continue, but it got way down near the knees.
45 seconds.
He really needs a point out. He's going to have to score from his feet. Unless he gets Majidov going out of bounds under attack, there's no way Anderson's going to win unless he scores a takedown or a throw from the feet.
They're not going to caution him out, Jeff. He hasn't scored at an activity point. They're not going to, or a technical point. They're not going to caution him out.
No, it's up to Anderson. Oh, he's got a great grip on him. That's going to be a takedown. That's going to be a takedown. He needs to turn now. 20 seconds left. Majidov looking at the clock. He knows what he has to do. It's up to Anderson to try a gut wrench or a body lift here.
Well, does he have the power left? He got him up once before. 10 seconds. Here it is. He's got him in the air. Well, he stopped it. The referee stopped it just as he started to lift.
That was an awful quick parterre position situation. He needs another takedown quickly.
8 seconds.
High dive. Snap on the head. But Majidov is fending him off well, and time will run out. 2-0 for Majidov.
And Ike Anderson of the United States came on strong in the end. He pushed that world champion right to the end. Majidov of the Soviet Union winning the match 2-1. And he is online for that gold medal. Ike Anderson now will have an opportunity to place, but he will not be in the medal round. Well, a disappointing match for Anderson, but a real heartfelt effort there. He did a super job of trying to win the match over the world champion.
You were trailing 2-0. You needed a takedown late in the match. You scored, and you attempted a body lift. Almost got it. What happened?
He pushed my hands down real quick. Referee said I was below the waist, but I didn't think so. I thought he should at least scored one, but he blew me up. He did it 3 times. I just I guess I didn't go fast enough on it.
Coach Katzen was talking about intensity in the first minute. The Soviets scored his first points in the first minute. Did you have a lack of intensity going in?
No, Jeff, we thought he was going to come out for his famous headlock. And so we worked on the defense for it, and he came out and he shot right on my legs. I wasn't ready for it. You know, and I guess he figured out that we were going to stop him somehow. And then he never got the headlock, but he caught me off balance. I was waiting for a headlock, and he shot in on me. And that was the difference in the match right there.
Any changes tomorrow when you go for 5th and 6th place?
No, I'm going to wrestle the same way. I'm going to give it my all. I wanted to get that medal, but I'm here to do the best job I can for the team, and that's points for the team. So I'm just going to go out and wrestle my hardest.
Ike Anderson, a close 2-1 loser to the Soviet Majidov.
And these wrestlers, they win and they lose, but they all show a lot of heart.
It is time now to go back to gymnastics, where the American women are about to take the floor in team compulsory. So let's go live to the gymnastics hall and Dick Enberg.
All right, Gail Gardner, we've just started the final session for the women in their compulsory round, and this is Melissa Marlowe up first on the floor for the United States.
Missy had a good start. She did all the elements well, and that is a beautiful turn. A back walk over to the split and a full pirouette.
This is so important that she does well. She's the table setter for the rest of the team. "17 from Salt Lake City." Coach is Mark Lee.
She is such a splendid dancer. She really does sell this routine. Her tumbling is not as strong as some of the others we've seen, but her dance is one of the best in the world.
Now the key will be, will she benefit? As you see her mother applauding, Mother Janine and Father Tim. Will the U.S. benefit from going last in these rotations and in these sessions, just as it was for the men?
This is the back walkover. Look at that beautiful split, full pirouette. That skill is absolutely perfect. Unfortunately, I think the judges are going to find some faults with the height of the tumbling. She didn't really have the amplitude that we saw some of the other gymnasts perform. Her dance work is terrific. The round-off back handspring layout is very nice and clean, but certainly she didn't drop out of the sky as the judges will be expecting to see.
Missy Marlowe. Bella Caroli, 9.625, a high of 9.7, a low of 9.5 from Bulgaria. For the moment, we go from Seoul, Korea to John Palmer in New York.
Thanks, Dick. Good morning again, everyone. In the news, casualties are reported high in Rangoon, Burma this morning, where demonstrators clashed through the night with soldiers following a military coup. The soldiers are under orders from the new regime there to halt all public gatherings. NBC News reporter Lynn Newman is in Rangoon and says the fighting continued this morning with troops confronting protesters in front of the U.S. Embassy.
Soldiers opened fire on the students at the embassy, killing 2. We then quickly heard reports that soldiers were opening fire on civilians and demonstrators throughout the city. We've heard gunfire throughout the day.
Reporter Lynn Newman. The street battles began Sunday when Burma's military leader overthrew the civilian government, which had been in power for only a few weeks' time. General Prosper Avril is the new president of Haiti this morning. Avril assumed power in Haiti after that country's presidential guard Saturday night overthrew the government of Henri Namphy. Avril was a military advisor under former dictator Jean-Claude Duvalier. Namphy is in exile in the Dominican Republic. Israel this morning launched its first satellite, an apparent success for that country's maiden flight in space. The rocket carried what Israeli officials said was an experimental communication satellite. With the launch, Israel becomes the 8th nation to have a rocket powerful enough to put a satellite into space. Authorities in Northern California say they have discovered an incendiary device which they believe an arsonist used to start the brush fires that have already consumed 8,700 acres near Vacaville. The fire was set Saturday night and quickly spread through the rugged, dry terrain. Residents were evacuated after flames destroyed 5 homes and 7 outbuildings. Heavy smoke is covering the region this morning, and police fear that could cause problems today on area highways. Rescue workers in Monterrey, Mexico, continue their search this morning for more victims of Hurricane Gilbert. As many as 200 people are feared dead in 4 buses which lie buried in mud. The buses had been rerouted by police because of poor road conditions during the storm. The road gave way under the surge of the rampaging water of the Santa Catarina River. 90 bodies have been recovered thus far. Michael Dukakis and George Bush have curtailed their campaigning this week to prepare for next Sunday's debate. Bush is expected to use the debate to continue his attack on Dukakis's patriotism, a theme he has used in almost every recent speech. Dennis Murphy has a report.
The symbol. Bush in Findlay, Ohio, Flag City, USA. And to the liberty for which it stands, one nation, under God, with freedom and justice for all. And let's never forget it.
More flags in Jefferson City, Missouri.
I don't see anything wrong with having teachers lead the kids in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Bush ringing a miniature Liberty Bell at a swearing-in ceremony for new citizens. Not since Teddy Roosevelt has there been so much Yankee Doodle Dandy campaigning. Bush has been on the attack almost constantly, presenting himself as the more patriotic candidate, the one who doesn't furlough killers from prison. Lots of tough, negative stuff. Peace, prosperity, and the Pledge of Allegiance just about sums up the Republican campaign so far. To some observers, Bush has been strong on attack but light on content. Tomorrow he visits a New Jersey flag-making factory. Dennis Murphy, NBC News, Washington.
Scores of gang members are under arrest this morning in Miami after a rampage that followed a rock concert. Rival gangs fought one another after a concert celebrating Central American independence. Police chased members through the streets and got some help from motorists who were caught in traffic. Police say one person was shot during that violence. And in Los Angeles, police arrested more than 700 people in a sweep of gang strongholds over the weekend. Police are hoping those raids will send a message to gang members in an effort to put an end to the violence that plagued some Los Angeles neighborhoods. But shortly after those raids were completed, there were 2 more gang-related murders and 8 other people injured in street violence there. And that's it from this desk in New York, the time being 8:33, moving up on 8:34. Let's go back to Washington one more time, check in with Willard Scott. Willard?
Hey, John, we make a good team. We ought to get our own show.
I think we have it.
Let's call it cable operation. Somebody may hire us. Anyway, in Lexington, Kentucky, the foster care volunteers of the great Commonwealth are having their meeting all this week. They take care of neglected and abused children. That's a good cause. And happy birthday to Nora Pigeon of Naperville, Illinois, a very lovely lady who is 100 years old today. Let's check the act and see what we have. Tornado watch in effect until 11 o'clock Central Time. Please be on the lookout in southern Missouri and northern Arkansas. Holy Toledo, Uncle Jack, the Cascades. This is like a winter forecast. They're getting snow today. They could get snow 3 to 5 inches of it in the higher elevations of the Cascades in Oregon and Washington. And look out for some severe weather possible in the Ohio and the Tennessee Valley, and some rain, 5 to 8 inches of it. That's the result of Gilbert's remnants. Here's what's happening in your world this morning.
Good morning, Central Iowa. Here's your forecast for today. Rain and thunderstorms, windy with south winds becoming northwest at 15 to 30 miles per hour at the high 73.
That's it. That's all. Back to Seoul and the Olympics.
Welcome back to Gymnastics Hall. Dick Enberg with Bart Connor, Mary Lou Retton. We're in the first rotation, final session, women's compulsory. You're watching live. This is Hope Spivey. She's 4th up for the U.S. team.
And I have to tell you, Dick, the Americans look terrific. They really got off to an excellent start. And the girls do look very well prepared. And, of course, floor exercise has always been a fine event for the U.S. team.
Hope Spivey, she's 17 years of age, 5 feet tall, 85 pounds, from Suffolk, Virginia. Her coach is Bill Strauss.
Let's take a look at the tumbling run here. She does front step out, handspring, and an arch dive roll. Nice and high, and she must roll up smoothly as she did.
Let's just give you the other scores of the U.S. women. Marlowe, a 9.625. Then Shelley Stack followed with a 9.7. And Kelly Garrison Steeves, a 9.8. And Hope Spivey earns a 9.8. So good scores for the U.S. women. We emphasize again a very young team. Let's just go down the line. Belgium 9.8, U.S. 9.8. Greek judge 9.8, Bulgaria 9.8, Swiss 9.8, French 9.8. No variance there.
And of course the DED stands for deductions. That's in case the girls are under or over time or out of bounds. The head judge will take off points there.
This is Brandy Johnson, 15.
Whoa! That's how you do the pike open.
Bella has compared Brandy Johnson's power, especially in the tumbling, athletic part of gymnastics, to Mary Lou Retton.
She really is very explosive, and her optional is just dynamite. But look at that run there. Front step out, handspring dive roll. Very well done. Brandy has had to work a lot on her flexibility, and you can see on the back walkover, handstand, full pirouette, good flexibility. There's a series of leaps. She's right on the music with piano player Karol Stabashevsky. Here's the layout run. Round off back handspring, layout, step out, very high.
Oh, does she have to feel good? That's Brandy Johnson. This is her first major international competition, and she performs here in Seoul, Korea in the Olympic Games. Do you think there aren't some knots and lumps in her throat and stomach? Brandy Johnson comes through with a fine effort.
Let's take a look here at the front step out. Look at the height on that front. She drops out of that handspring and a nice tight body arch dive roll. Certainly one of the characteristics of all Bella Caroli gymnasts is their consistency, and he really has his group of young girls very well fine-tuned for this Olympic competition.
There are the scores, 9.875 with lots of 9.9s. The Bulgarian judge has been tough throughout. Another 9.8, but Brandy Johnson, that's a great way to break in, Mary Lou Retton.
Absolutely. It's very good that the girls are starting out on floor, because if you're a little nervous at the beginning of the competition, and this is a good place to start.
Phoebe Mills, the national #1, United States, 15.
Very nice pike open. Phoebe Mills is sort of the Daniela Sunivash of the American team because she's so technically precise.
Father Chris, Mother Susan, Northfield, Illinois.
She looks very comfortable out there, doesn't she?
I'm sure her parents are more nervous than she is.
Right on. Of course, this last tumbling run is the final impressions the judges see. They need to see a high layout step out. Very nice.
In contrast to the performance of the U.S. women in Rotterdam in the World Championships, where they struggled and fell and there were major faults throughout, they've gone through this first rotation on the floor quite impeccably. They've done very well. I'm sure Caroli and the other coaches are quite pleased.
Let's look here at the round off, back handspring, pike, open, mount. Great start.
And the judges liked it. Here's the scoring for Phoebe Mills. U.S. judge at 10, all the rest at 9-9. You throw out the high and low, average the 4, 9.9 to cap off a fine opening rotation for the United States. The United States, an outside chance at a bronze in the team competition, and the free exercise is a good opening for them.
Welcome back to our coverage of the games of the 24th Olympiad from Seoul, Korea.
And we're back at Gymnastics Hall waiting for the completion of the first rotation. The United States is through with their floor exercise and will next move to the vault. And we'll see how they did in comparison to the other teams. Of course, the Soviet Union and Romania are favored for the gold. There's Bela Karolyi. He was an Olympian himself in 1956 for Romania, was a hammer
all
thrower.
Of you guys, squeeze your legs.
Didn't make it to the finals.
Squeeze your legs, okay?
Keep those legs together.
Legs. And on the landing, just hold it. Nice. Okay.
Well, we'll
Good
show you the
speed.
standings for the
Good
team when we return, but first let's go to Gail Gardner.
All right, Dick, thank you. We will be returning, obviously, to gymnastics in just a moment. I want to tell you some other things, though. Outside of watching the Olympics, the favorite pastime here in Korea, as you probably know, is pin trading. The most sought-after pin of all is the one from the opening ceremony. It was designed by a young Korean girl, and this is her story.
In a nationwide design contest, over 11,000 school and university students entered a competition to decide the official pin for the opening ceremony. 9-year-old Park Sung-ji won. During a rehearsal for the opening ceremony, Sung-ji was presented with a copy of her pin by Seoul Olympic Organizing Committee President Park Se-jik. Sung-ji, her parents, and older brother live in the southern port city of Yosu. When she isn't studying or drawing, Sung-ji practices the piano in the living room of their two-family house. The metal pin's 3 crossed hands represent the harmony and cooperation among participating nations. Sung-ji says she got the idea for her pin by reading books and watching television. Designing pins is not her only hobby. She collects them too. She has over 40 of them worn on a yellow hat. They have become her trademark. As far as the future goes, she's not too sure she wants to be an artist. But one thing is for sure, with only 100,000 produced, the opening ceremony pins, designed by 9-year-old Park Sung-ji, are bound to be collector's items.
Nice to have something like that happen to you when you're 9 years old. All right, we're going to take a break. When we return, the American women will be up on the vault. Back to gymnastics after this.
Welcome back, and look at that. That's a surprise. United States quite brilliant in their first rotation. The floor exercise second to the Soviet Union. Of course, these will change as they go through the rotations, but you couldn't ask for a better beginning than that, Bart Connor.
Yeah, the U.S. team really looked hot. In fact, even the Soviet team, which is expected to dominate here, they bobbled around on a lot of the tricky elements of the floor routine, and that the U.S. team was so solid. What a confidence builder to start that well.
And Bela Karolyi, he is really quite a story. He's the coach in '76 in Romania of Nadia Comaneci. He comes to the United States, defects to this country. He develops another all-around gold medal winner, first ever for the United States. In the women's competition, Mary Lou Retton, our colleague, and You know, a lot of people don't like Bella because he's a strong personality. He takes charge. He coaches the way they coach in the Eastern Bloc countries, and a lot of U.S. coaches aren't accustomed to that. He wants to run the show. He wants to win the game, and he steps on toes in the process. But boy, he has, well, no one's going to argue the fact that he is a winner.
I tell you, if I were competing right now, I were a member of the U.S. women's team, I'd sure like to have Bela Karolyi on my side, because he somehow knows how to get every last tenth of a point out of those girls' performances, and that's what it's going to take to win at the Olympic Games, is every last bit.
Here's Missy Marlowe. She will be up first, born in Belgium. Her father was stationed there in the service. She works with the same sports psychologist as U.S. archer Denise Parker. She's the young 14-year-old who has a chance to medal here in Seoul. Missy Marlowe.
Now the vault we're going to be seeing is a tucked Tsukahara. That's probably the best tucked Tsukahara that Missy Marlowe ever did.
Missy Marlowe barely made this team. She was 10th in the, or 11th in the all-around in the Nationals, and then rallied at Salt Lake City at the trials to make the team.
She had a form break early, but what she did show is the strong kick out from the tuck before she landed, and you can see on her face she's very pleased. You can see here there is a form deduction. The judges will take off for that, but she tucks in and then extends way out to a straight body position before she pulls around the landing.
What an angle from overhead to appreciate the difficulty, and good distance from the vault for Marlowe, and now she looks for the score. 17 years of age, has no trouble getting dates, as you might understand. 9.60 for Marlowe. Next up on the vault will be Kelly Garrison Steeves. United States after one rotation in second behind the Soviet Union. We'll be right back. Marlowe with a 9.6, Garrison Steeves a 9.7. Now here's Phoebe Mills.
Very good. All right.
Bela Karolyi rooting them through, coaching them through, as you hear his comments.
I think we should hire Bela Karolyi to be one of our analysts. He is certainly right on as Phoebe Mills does the half on, little form break, tucks in, and extends out. Actually, that's probably one of the better ones Phoebe has done. She has had a problem before of extending out of the tuck and not completely straightening her body, kind of holding a pike. That's the same fault that we saw Aurelia Dobre perform earlier, and Aurelia Dobre scored only 9.6, 9.625.
Good speed, good block, good repulsion. I want to hear it.
Talking now to Shelley Stack.
Hold that, don't jump, hold that down.
Shelley Stack, well, we talked about squeezing every ounce out of his gymnast, Mary Lou Retton. You can speak from firsthand experience.
Bela certainly does. He works with each individual differently. And I tell you, Bela comes to competitions not just to compete, he comes to win. He's a competitor in everything he does.
Did he ever really make you so angry you'd want to tell him off and say, I'm getting out of here? Did he ever get you that upset?
To myself, to make me mad, he would always just ignore me, and that made me even madder. So I would just want to do it just to show him that I could.
Little hop at the end cost Mills a tenth of a point, and 9.65 for Phoebe Mills. Here's little Shelley Stack. She's the smallest member of the entire U.S. Olympic contingent of over 600 athletes.
And you can see she added some sparkles to her makeup today, and certainly I think Bela Karolyi has added some sparkles to her performance because she has looked very good. Nice job.
Good. 74 pounds of energy, Shelley Stack. She likes to collect dowels. She's down there at Itaewon whenever she gets a chance, looking for those to add to her collection. I'm sure O'Dory being one. Let's see it again, Bart.
Now, she is a really tiny girl, and yet she gets pretty good distance from the horse. Good block, in tight, extends out, and she lands straight up and down. That's very impressive to the judges. Once again, this is kind of a scary way to look at this vault because it does look like you're about to crash. But of course, she was perfectly in control. Oh, she landed with her feet pretty far apart. That will be a deduction as well. You need to land not with your feet actually touching,
guys,
but just very slightly apart so that you can maintain balance and yet not get a form deduction when the judges are looking for those minor things, because all of these gymnasts are performing these skills at an incredibly high level. It's the little things that are going to make the difference.
Shelley Stack, 9.625. 675, excuse me. 675, well, consistently 9 6s and 9 7s for Stack. Will be a 10th grader when she goes back to Houston to continue her training under Bella Caroli. 5th up, Hope Spivey.
Very nice vault for Hope. She had a little more distance than Shelley did, but of course she did not stick that landing.
Good. A good vault. A little bit hot.
Trains with the Parkettes in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Once again, in super slow-mo, you can really see what's happening here. Half on, and then she blocks off that horse, which is spring-loaded these days. She tucks in, kicks out. Oh, that's a nice position as she opens out to a little bit of a slight arch in the layout.
Super back shoulders. Good run. Powerful. Good
Now, Bella, you hear him talking to Brandy Johnson as you see again Hope Spivey.
Good fin, solid run.
Hope grew up when she was really young wanting to be a baseball player because of her older brother's Little League experience, and she says, I love to watch the Mets. She says, I like that Carter and Strawberry. 9.725 for Hope Spivey. Hungary, Australia, 9.8. West Germany, 9.7. Israel, 9.7. And here's Brandy Johnson.
Brandy is an incredible vaulter. She has an optional that'll blow your mind. Let's see if she can do a good compulsory here. Oh, she did not stick it, but she vaulted off of the ceiling.
All right. Good one. This is a big one. Okay.
Brandy Johnson at 15. She, like Shelley Stack, coming out of nowhere into the nationals and the trials to make this team.
Watch the power she has. She comes onto the horse. She explodes off. She has tremendous distance.
Okay, you. Okay.
Tuck in, extend out. And, of course, she's trying to stick that landing, but it wasn't there. You know, in the '84 Olympics, the girls had 2 vaults in the compulsories. This is the first Olympics where the girls only get 1 opportunity. And, of course, 2 vaults is a little easier because if you overdo the first one like she did, you have an opportunity to set up the next one and hopefully stick the second one. That's no longer the way the girls compete in the compulsories.
Or if you're like Mary Lou Retton and stick a 10, you just come right back and do it all over again. 9.850 is the best of any of the U.S. gymnasts on the vault. They'll fall back in the team competition. Their vaults, nevertheless, probably at the level that was expected. No major faults. And we'll continue as the U.S. women go to the uneven bars after this.
This NBC Sports presentation of the games of the 24th Olympiad is brought to you by United Airlines, airline of the 1988 U.S. Olympic team. By Kmart, proud sponsor of the 1988 Summer Olympics. And by Goodyear, certified auto service. Nobody fits you like Goodyear.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the International Broadcast Center in Seoul, Korea. I'm Gail Gardner, along with Jane Pauley and Jimmy Cefalo. We have been watching women's gymnastics team compulsories. You just saw the American women on the vault, and they performed better than expected. The uneven parallel bars are up next.
Up next, yes, we have 1 hour yet to go. A bonus hour for you. Get another cup of coffee. We'll take a break now.
We will be returning to gymnastics in just a moment, but as you probably saw earlier in the program, American diver Greg Louganis, the favorite in both diving events, hit his head on the 3-meter springboard on his 9th dive. Looked very bad, but he was okay, able to get up and complete his rotation, completed the last 2 dives. He has made it into the finals. He has had some stitches in his head, but he is okay. And a little bit earlier, we were able to catch up with him and grab a few words.
Let's get into wherever you guys are going, and then I'll come back.
It was just an error in judgment, so just trying to take care of it right now.
You feeling okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thanks.
How do you get up there and do it again after that?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Yeah.
Jim. Hi.
What goes through your mind?
I remember. How are you?
Yeah, fine. How'd you feel? I'm just concentrating on tomorrow.
You lived through worse. Huh? You lived through worse.
Greg Louganis had 3 temporary stitches placed in his head when they were out at the swimming venue, but they took him back to the Olympic Park, into a hospital. 5 stitches. He's absolutely fine. He's going to be competing tomorrow when the finals of the springboard competition continue, so that is good news for Greg Louganis and for the American team.
His perspective on it surprised me. Error in judgment. It never occurred to me that what had happened was anything but heroic to turn around and come back and perform as brilliantly as he did. Of course, he is focusing on the fact that he made an error in judgment, and that's why it happened.
Amazing. Okay, we are going to give you some more updates on Greg Louganis throughout the day, but right now we're going to take a break, be back with more gymnastics right after this.
Good.
With Mary Lou Retton and Bart Connor and Bella Caroli. This is Dick Enberg back at Gymnastics Hall. We've completed 2 rotations. Let's compare the United States with the other giants in this sport. The Soviet Union in the lead. After 2 rotations, Romania second. That's the way it'll be at the end of the evening, regardless of what the United States says. But that's solid in third and at least positions them at the halfway mark of the 4 rotations to keep their hopes alive for a possible team medal. That's a very good East German team that they're barely ahead of East Germans in 4th. Now the U.S. moves to the uneven bars, and Kelly Garrison Steeves, the national collegiate champion all around in 1987 and then repeated again here in 1988 for the University of Oklahoma. She's up first.
Kelly is an excellent bar worker, and there are some very tricky elements in this routine, as we've seen in some of the earlier rounds. We got to watch to see if she can hit the handstands. Here comes the first one. A little bit over. That was nice. That was just a little bit short. That's good. Free hip to a handstand right to the top. That was excellent. And a very pretty layout this time. A really good exercise for the first routine, because the U.S. does not want to make a mistake on the first routine, so she played it just a little bit safe, and I think that was a very smart move.
And that was true of the Soviets and the Romanians as well. You're setting the table. You don't want to start with a bad score.
And the best part of the routine was right there, the free hip, locked out that handstand, and a very pretty layout flyaway landing straight up and down.
Now, Bart Connor, last night at this time, you were critical of the judging because you felt the scores in the last session for the men were unfairly high. Now, I haven't heard that comment tonight. The United States, you think they're getting the benefit of going last?
Well, I think the U.S. team looks terrific. And in contrast to what happened with the men's scores, some very mediocre men's teams that were performing in the late rounds were getting excellent scores. The U.S. team is getting good scores, and I really feel that these are well-deserved scores.
Garrison Steeves, and of course, the higher that first score, then all that follow are being judged with it, and if they're a little bit better, the scores go up. 6 scores, you drop the lowest score from the team, and it's the 5 highest that constitute the score. And we have our first serious judges conference.
And that's Jackie Fye. She's the superior judge on uneven bars. She's from the United States. She's on the phone with one of the other judges, trying to work out the discrepancy in the scores.
She might be talking about Jane Pauley's arabesque. I saw her after she was out here the other day working out at the Hilton. We'll be right back with more of that. Welcome back. When we were last with you, the judges had a conference on Kelly Garrison Steeves leading off the uneven bars rotation for the United States. There's the 21-year-old married member of the United States team. Her husband, Mark, a gymnast at Oklahoma as well. There, the scoring. Great Britain, as you look far to the right, with a 9-8, and East Germany a 9-6. Those are the two they throw out, and it comes out a 9-7. That's a very good opening score.
Yeah, I think the U.S. team should be very pleased with that because Kelly's routine was very nice, but it was on the safe side, and a 9-7 was about as high as you can expect for a routine. In fact, maybe just a little too high.
Hope Spivey has just completed her uneven bars, and a 9.65 for Spivey, and that will bring up Misty Marlowe.
Missy really did this bar routine well in the Olympic trials. When I mentioned earlier, she had the meet of her life in Salt Lake City, her hometown, just 6 weeks ago. Handstand pirouette. Wow, that was nice. That wasn't safe at all. Boy, that's a very pretty sequence. She shows both handstands there. This is an excellent routine on any standard.
Bela Karolyi, he actually verbalizes his body language, helping her through that routine.
That was good.
Melissa Marlowe.
89.
You can see she does a kip catch to the high bar. That's a long reach. The bars are so wide these days because the girls are doing giant swings. Look at this. Handstand, pirouette, handstand. Just as Mary Lou pointed out earlier, and of course, although that is not a technical requirement there, that giant up is very difficult to follow through with a back straddle back to a handstand. But Missy did that very well. Handstand again before the free hip.
Good job, Joe. Joe Ho. Oh, Joe.
And a clean layout flyaway. I don't know what they're going to score that, Dick. That routine was terrific.
Now there it is.
Actually, I think that score's too low.
9.750 compared to Garrison Steeves' 9.70, and here is Shelley Stack.
Nice work. That was the way to finish that pirouette.
Well, there's the first major break. We did not see that from the Soviets or the Romanians. And of course, now you have to think about this is the score that will be dropped as the low score of the six.
Too early. Okay.
Painfully watching her mother, Carol. Now the whole key for Stack, who is so inexperienced in international competition, is to be able to erase this experience and continue on.
Bela Karolyi said she was a little bit early on this, and you can see she comes off the bottom too soon. She was going for the handstand. We talked all day long about the importance of hitting those handstands. Shelley's routine was perfect to that point, and I think she felt very comfortable with going aggressively. No matter how much Bela Karolyi's body language tried to help her, she was in trouble.
And that's 0.5 of a point, a major break for Shelley Stack. But you got to rub that away. No, look at the tear. Yep, because she's got another important exercise on the beam, and that requires steady nerves. So figuring that had she done the exercise correctly without the major fault, she was working in the 9.7 area. You take 0.5 off that, so you're at a 9.2. Let's see if she is judged better than a 9.2. What do you think?
She's getting some advice there from Bill Strauss, who is her coach at the Parkettes program. And of course, Bill's wife, Donna Strauss, is the assistant coach to Bela Karolyi for this year's Olympic team.
You know, this is Shelley's first major international competition, and you have your advantages and your disadvantages. The judges don't know her weaknesses, you know, the breaks, and she's a little weak in flexibility, and they can't look for them. They're not prepared. But then some of the disadvantages is she could get very nervous and overwhelmed by the competition and make mistakes.
Right away.
Well, you think about Scott Johnson at 27 and with an 84 Olympic experience in the men's team, and he was the man trying to do too much. Well, they're a little better than a 9.2.
You should be a judge, Dick.
No, I am a dud. I am already a dud, but if I could be a dud judge, that might be something. Oh, you'd like to go down and give her a hug and say, hey, forget it, kid. Now, here's Brandy Johnson. She is in the top 6 in the individual all-around after 2 rotations.
This can be a brilliant event for Brandy. A little short there. That sequence was perfect. Explosive. I think actually she worried herself a little bit at the first part of the exercise because I think she thought with all that dynamic energy she was going to fly over the bar on that handstand pirouette. So as Mary Lou had mentioned, it was really critical that she learned to control that adrenaline that she has.
That is 80.
She had a little trouble because I think she thought right here she was going way over, so she bent her arms to slow herself down, and of course that caused the break in the rhythm. This part of the exercise was just right.
Yeah. Okay, kind of thing blocked. Okay.
Here's the free hip, slight bend of the arms. The judges would like to see straight arms there, and a very pretty layout dismount. But she had a little bobble early on. That's going to cost her.
9.775. That is the best score for any of the U.S. women on the bars. East Germans, again, the lowest score. And finally, Phoebe Mills, 6th up.
Handstand pirouette, that was a little bit over. A little bit safe on the handstands. Free hip right to the top, and a nice flyaway. You know what I think happened there, Dick, is that, you know, the psychology of the athlete is that the performance before them many times can throw them off. I think she saw that Brandy had a little trouble, and I feel that Phoebe went a little bit safe on that routine.
And I think Brandy had a little trouble because she had just seen Shelley Stack fall, and I think the ripple effect of just one major break affects the entire team.
Especially on an event like the bars, because the gymnasts, of course, have to challenge the handstands, and when you start to chicken out, you really have trouble. I had a big problem with that on the high bar compulsory for the men in '84 because there were some handstands we needed to challenge, and I think luckily we were on and we felt comfortable challenging those handstands.
Phoebe started, as other members of her family, as a brilliant speed skater and then switched to gymnastics. 9.750. That may have been a little generous for her, as she did play it safe. So completes the uneven bars. The U.S. now goes to the beam.
He's warming up over there.
Welcome back to Seoul. There was a little bit of men's volleyball earlier today here in Seoul, and a bit of an upset. Brazil, which won the silver medal back in 1984 in the Olympic Games, was going against Korea, and as you can imagine, the Korean team was the favorite of the hometown crowd. Korea here in red, serving for the match. Brazil was in white, and they were trailing by a score of 14-12. Korea's Chang Yong-chang makes a great return of a Brazilian spike. The Brazilians stuff a Korean spike, but the Koreans set up Choi Chun-sik, whose kill finishes off the upset and whose name nearly finishes me off. Korea wins the match by a score of 3-2, and of course the hometown Korean crowd just loves it. We'll be back in just a couple of moments. We'll head back to gymnastics. The American men, or women rather, on the balance beam.
As the American girls are moving over to the balance beam, gives us a chance to look up and look around a little bit. Korea may be on the other side of the world, but visitors from the States are finding many sights and scenes from home here in Seoul. Greg Lewis reports.
Ronald McDonald celebrates the opening of another restaurant to satisfy a nation's hunger for burgers, fries, and a Coke. It's a typical American scene. Aren't these the signs of our times and our culture? Sure they are.
But they're not in our country. Don't be fooled by the Nashville Club and the sounds of Willie Nelson blaring forth. Believe it or not, this isn't Tennessee. This is downtown Seoul, South Korea, where the American influence is becoming increasingly inescapable.
You know, you wake up here, you turn on the television, what do you get? Willard Scott doing the Today Show weather. Play the radio, it's American rock, and Paul Harvey commentary. And if you're interested in the battle in the American League East, why, you can get the scores in any of 5 English language newspapers published in Seoul daily. While the Tigers are trying to beat the Yanks in Detroit, in Seoul, the Tiger, Hodori, is welcoming Yanks and their culture with open arms. Why this fascination with things American in the world's most ethnically pure country? The answer is rooted in our 38-year military presence. U.S. business has also left its imprint, and Koreans are always trying to cash in on American tourism, especially during the games. English is good for business. Cab drivers study the language over their taxi radios. Students must take 6 years of English to graduate. Americans will never learn Korean with the same conviction, although Koreans are using their understanding of American culture to teach us a few of their favorite words, like Hyundai and Reebok. Greg Lewis, NBC Sports.
There's a story, United States in 4th, but we'll go back to that because Shelley Stack, after that fall on the uneven bars, is up on the beam first for the U.S.
It's got to be very tough for Shelley to regain her composure after making the mistake on bars. She handled that full turn very well. That's one of the tricky elements in this routine.
The most treacherous of the 4 rotations, the balance beam.
Very nice arabesque after the back handspring. That's one of the elements the judges are looking for. Of course, Shelley's coach on the balance beam at home is Marta Caroli, Bella's wife, and Marta has developed a long line of great balance beam workers. And Shelley is handling this routine very well.
Consider the composure. This is a girl you call to say, will you mind sitting for my kids so we can go out to dinner tonight? She's a 10th grader. And here she is in the Olympic Games, and after that disaster on the uneven bars, able to pull herself together. That's something for which her mother should well applaud, to admire. And what a great face. What eyes. Okay, let's go back to the team competition. It's so crucial for the United States to finish tonight in the top 4. Why?
Well, it rarely happens that any team comes out of the second group in the finals, team finals, to win a medal. Now, if the U.S. has any hopes of winning a bronze or better, they're going to need to be in the session with the 4 best teams, and that, of course, would probably be the Soviet Union, Romania, and maybe East Germany or the U.S. So the U.S. needs to be in that top group. If they're in the 5th through 8th session, which goes up before the top teams, it'll be very difficult for them to have any shot at a medal at all.
Now, their stack score, 9.625. The U.S. needs to average 9.615 to stay in 4th place. So I'll give you a measuring stick. Here's Hope Spivey.
Very nice full turn. She doesn't seem tentative at all.
Wobbly there.
Slight break in rhythm. Probably a 10th of a point deduction. Solid on the handstand, pirouette down. This is a very nice beam routine for Hope. She doesn't have the long lines and the graceful extension that we saw from some of the Soviets, but she has to be pleased because in competition, I think that's their best compulsory ever.
Mom Carol, Father Frank applaud. She stuck the landing. That should hold her better than the 9.625 that Shelley Stack started with. And the drama continues. Can the U.S. stay in fourth?
This NBC sports presentation of the games of the 24th Olympiad is brought to you by Isuzu, the first car builders of Japan. By TCBY. Say goodbye to high calories with the delicious taste of TCBY frozen yogurt. And by Coca-Cola and your local Coca-Cola bottler. You can't beat the feeling.
Are at least in position for a possible medal. Bela Karolyi with the final bear hug. Let's go back to Gail Gardner.
Okay, Dick, thank you very much. Bela Karolyi, of course, talking about what he thought was inconsistency in judging, something we are used to hearing in gymnastics, and figure skating, and all of the subjective sports.
Right, but Dick made a good point. The Americans should be happy they were sixth in Rotterdam a year ago, now in fourth with an opportunity to go a little bit further. There's plenty more action here on NBC later today. We're on almost 24 hours a day. We have this afternoon Ahmad Rashad, then tonight with Brian Gumbel, late night tonight with Bob Costas, and we're going to take a look at what action you can expect. Here's a preview. Later this afternoon on NBC's continuing coverage of the games of the 24th Olympiad, we'll go to the Han River Regatta course for heats of the men's single sculls. American Andrew Sudduth makes his first appearance in a bid to upset triple gold medalist Pertti Karppinen of Finland. Then tonight, the USA women's volleyball team is preparing to meet China in a rematch of the 1984 gold medal game. Despite hitting his head during the preliminaries, Greg Louganis will be back to defend his gold medal in the finals of the 3-meter springboard competition. After a 64-year absence, tennis is back as an Olympic sport, and many of the best are here. Wimbledon champion Stefan Edberg is among those who will open the competition. Then it's a North American battle as the USA meets Canada in men's basketball. David Robinson leads the Americans as they go for their second victory. On late night, the men's gymnastics team competition moves into the optional exercises. The U.S. team will try to improve their spot in the standings with the help of powerful Charles Lakes, America's top performer so far. They'll go alongside the Canadians, West Germans, and Romanians. We'll also continue our tennis coverage, all on day 4 of the games of the 24th Olympiad.
Brandy Johnson is beautiful to watch. She's now the leading member of the team. I, for one, as a layman, have never liked the little bird-like movements on the I don't care
They
for
are
it.
tiny.
But she made it look very robust and graceful and all-American teenager.
Yeah.
Beautiful girl.
She was named by her father after his favorite song 15 years ago. She's just
Brandy.
15 years
It's been
of age.
15
Brandy.
years?
Yes,
Isn't that
it's
awful?
surprising.
That is really
And we all
terrible.
remember it a little too well, I think.
I do. I could sing it for you.
All right, we have had a lot of things happen over the course of the last 24 hours, so we're going to leave you now. We will be back again tomorrow. Ahmad Rashad brings us our next coverage at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We leave you now with some of the moments of glory and disappointment over the last 24 hours.